Welcome back. My name is Chris, and this is a new episode on the wisdom of yoga. I want to bring back today some knowledge, some ancient spiritual knowledge, but which is timeless, which is universal, and that is why it is so powerful. Yoga worked 2000 years ago, and yoga works perfectly in a modern, dynamic, and very fast pace of life. That is the beauty, and I think that is why the movement of yoga is so global and everybody understands yoga works, and yoga is a profound practice, not only to improve your life, but to really transcend many of the challenges we face. I know I'm very aware after 10 years of yoga that we're still based our practice mainly on asana. Our practice of yoga is mainly based on asana. And that is fine, that is good, that has value for the body, for the mind. But yoga goes far beyond, and slowly, gradually, more and more people are awakening to the depth, to the truth of yoga, to the deeper power of yoga. And as a yoga teacher, it is my responsibility, I see it as my responsibility to not only share asana and exciting postures and movements, but to lead my students into the depth of the practice, which is a spiritual practice. And it is all about restoring our connection to the self, to the divine, to that place inside of us which is beyond birth and death, which is beyond age, which is far beyond the life circumstances. I think we all know that the mind is conditioned by the world, and the mind only cares about the world and our life circumstances, and if we're doing good, and how the world perceives us, and if we get what we want. And in the Bhagavad Gita, it's stated very clearly that the mind is both. It's your friend and your enemy. It's the friend and the enemy of the self. But it is the enemy because the the mind creates so much noise inside of us. And the first thing in on the path of yoga, what we want to address through postures and through breath is to observe the mind. So when we cultivate observation on the ongoing chatter of the mind, then this is where I say we start to step on an advanced practice of yoga. The pure ability to observe your mind and its ongoing chatter, its ongoing judgment, and the addiction, our addiction to the inner noise of nonstop labeling things. The moment we can step back and just observe that, this is advanced yoga. And I want to talk about that today because this ability to observe and to no longer identify with the stream of thinking is where a new dimension of consciousness emerges within us. And this is the true power of yoga. It's a radical shift from identification with the mind to go into a state of observation where we see all the thoughts, all the things we believe, which are conditioned by the world, by how we were raised, and suddenly we observe them. And that is where we detach. And that is where yoga calls it, we separate the conditioned self, the ego self, with the higher self. The moment we can observe, we are shifting into the higher self perspective. And the higher self can observe, and, which is the most beautiful thing, and that is the deeper practice of yoga, it can let go. I think we all know that the mind loves problems. It's almost addicted to problems, right? Like things that are going wrong, things that need to be controlled and fixed, argument, reactive behavior, judgment, blame. The ego, the conditioned self, the voice in our head always wants to be active, noisy, and keep everything under control. And it loves problems. It loves problems. Because through problems, it can engage into emotions and it can feed itself. The body, the mind can feed and has a reason to continue the chatter. And yoga teaches us to be very aware when we talk about our problems. Why? Because there is a universal law where consciousness goes, energy flows. So if we mindlessly talk and invest energy into problems, into things that are not good in our life, we create more of it. When we step on the yoga mat and we observe the breath, we observe the body, we observe the mind. And it's quite easy to learn to listen to the body because it is so dense, but the emotions and the mind are much more subtle. And it takes weeks, months, years, a lifetime of practice to learn to observe the mind. There is a powerful way of how we share problems. And that is that we not identify with the problem and talk out of the energy, the frequency of the problem, which is most of the time a state of lack, because we are missing a solution, but to step back and to share it from a place of observation. Like, I am experiencing lack. I'm faced with that issue. In my perception, it seems to be an issue, and I want to address it. For example, when all the bills entering, which I cannot pay, and they're piling up every week, the pile is growing, and I have no opportunity to pay them at the moment. So that for me, and I think for many people in the world, is potentially a high degree of stress. So a high degree of reactive behavior where the mind jumps on and focuses on the problem and tries to solve it, right? Like, okay, what do I need to do? I have this option, I have this option. And yoga tells us, oh, do not feed the problem. Do not invest in the problem. That is not the practice. But the practice is to step back, to see the dynamic of the mind, and to let it go. And that is a radical shift we need to do over and over again. That shift where we identify with the problem and we have the urge to solve it in some way, or to talk with someone to solve it and to find a solution. And some things need solution, of course. Don't get me wrong. It's not about putting your head into the sand. But it is the dynamic and the place from which we encounter. That is what matters. And that is what yoga calls us. It calls us to awaken. Therefore, we need to step back. We need to observe. And what happens in that observation, we create space. We call this space consciousness. We suddenly are not any longer trapped in the story, in the situation of the world, but we step back and we have space. And that is the first, one of the biggest blessing of the practice, that we experience space consciousness. Because the mind is always tapped in the world, the circumstances, the problem, the negativity, the things that we need to fix and control. But the state where we are observing is the starting point of meditation, the starting point of prayer, of tapping into the soul, the higher self. It's the starting point. It's not a state where we want to dwell all the time, but we need to create that space in order to rise, in order to elevate, in order to overcome the problem. Not by fixing it, but by creating space and see and feel what there is. And once we can hold that space of awareness, and that is the one of the most important things for me when I teach asana, that we enter those postures and then we experience space and we observe the breath, the body, the connection, the present moment. We feel the people around us. We feel the sweat, the heat, the intensity. All that creates awareness for the moment. And when the Bhagavad Gita says the mind is not only your enemy, but also your friend, is because we can choose to see the good and to address the good. It's called the gratitude practice. But I want to bring it up again because the gratitude practice is, in its essence, our ongoing choice to see the good and to see what is working. And there is this yoga quote like, count your blessings. And that is most powerful. Count your blessings. Like, oh my God, I have that cup of tea right there. And I'm able to drink tea. That is a blessing. I'm able to breathe that fresh air. I have feet, hands, and arms to walk, to drive, to go out into nature. I have food. I have love. I have partner. I have a child. Like counting your blessings and reassuring, oh my God, there is so much beauty in my life. So much things that I'm truly blessed by. And counting your blessings for me is already a prayer. Because that expressing your blessings is what creates, with what brings you into a state of fullness. When you go deeper, like you can bless those things that you have, and that blessing, then you bring it to your heart and you go into a deeper layer where it's actually not so much anymore about all those things, because this is still the surface, this is still material things, like still the water, the partner, the child, the house, your health. But that can go in a second, we know. We things in the world of forms, things come and things go. So it's not our happiness is attached to those blessings, but we validate them, we acknowledge them, we see them, but then we go deeper. That is just a portal to go to a space where we are whole internally. The soul never was injured. The soul does not need food. Your soul does not need money. Your soul does not need status and fame. Your soul does not need any form of recognition of the world. Your soul does not need a partner. Your soul doesn't rely on love from another human being. Your soul purely relies on the connection with the Creator. And it is the soul is always connected with the light of the Creator. So we can bless the things that we experience that enhance our life, But then we go deeper into the heart, and we go into a spiritual state where we go beyond the world. We tap into the soul, where we really find wholeness. And that is the ultimate, when we call it a goal in yoga, that is the ultimate. I wouldn't say goal. Goal is too earthly driven. It's the destiny of yoga, is to enter that state of wholeness where you truly feel complete inside of you. And for me, in my classes, I use Shavasana as the gateway where we let it all go, all attachments, and where we experience, ideally, we experience what yoga is about, a state where nothing is missing. But first, we need to learn to still the mind, observe the mind, count the blessings. Yes, there are still problems, and we can observe them, how they make us feel, but then let them go and come back to the alignment with the soul. And that's a nice theory, right? And we all know that reality, when we are confronted with the harsh reality of life, all the theory, it's blown away by the wind in a second. Like a leaf, it's just whoop, gone. And we are, but the mind, so strong, attacking again. Emotions come. They're like fire. They burn away all the connection with the soul. They burn it. God is not anymore here. Yoga, what is yoga? I have to fight. I have to react. I have to do this, and this. Control my life. But that is our true opponent, the conditioned self, the belief that we have to control the world. That is the opponent we need to overcome. And it starts with observation. It starts with stilling the mind. In those moments where we are safe. Therefore, the yoga practice is so powerful, because we practice when we feel safe, but we practice so intensely. So in the moments when life comes, we are ready. And that might take years. There are still some moments where the emotion and the mind just, it's like a stream, a strong currency. It just drags you, boom, out into the ocean, and you're lost. And then in yoga, on the mat, we say, just bring it back to your alignment. Build your alignment over and over again. Every time we do the downward walk, we go into alignment. Every day we do the high lunge, we align anew. Always anew. Bring it back. And same with the spiritual practice. The deeper layers of the yoga, we need to align with the breath. Listen to the inner body. Observe the mind. Sit for stillness. Deepen stillness. And ultimately, when we take yoga not anymore as a way to just feel better and stretch a little bit, but we acknowledge the spiritual dimension of the practice, then we have a new relationship to yoga. It is more a commitment that comes from the soul. When I think about yoga, I have a duty, a soul duty to practice, because when I use my practice as a way to connect to the light of my soul, and then I bring the light of the soul into my life, but that is just one level, and the next level is that we bring light to the world. And that is, for many people, already maybe way over what they believe in the moment. But it needs to be addressed that yoga is a service for humanity, to put it that way. It's a service, a contribution to consciousness elevating on planet Earth. Why? Because we connect to a spiritual dimension, we connect to our soul, we generate light inside our vessel, our body vessel, and through our words, through our stillness, through our presence, we radiate it into the world. So we become fields of spiritual light. And then wherever you go, talk with your children, with your partner, with your family, you travel, you go into shops, you do your work, whatever you do, you carry that light with you and you become a reflection of that divine presence. Yes, we will lose it a million times, but because yoga is a practice, we bring it back. And we deepen it, and we deepen, and we deepen, and we awaken. And awakening is a slow, gradual process of remembering our true nature. And we will forget it, and we will remember with the next breath. And then, we can ask, yeah, but how can we heal the world? There's so many people in pain, in war, in poverty. How can we support them? And yes, there are many things we can do. We can contribute to charity, we can build charity, we can invent new technologies and products, and all that is with great value for the world and for humanity. But yoga tells us a different story, that more important than bringing solutions to people and the life on earth, more important than your service on the world, in the world, on the marketplace, is your state of consciousness. That is the biggest service for humanity. When you align with the light, when you align with the higher self, and you step into wholeness, and you radiate from a place, from a giving place, that is the first and most important purpose of our life as yoga practitioners. That is the real purpose of yoga. To become that vessel of light and presence and to bring it to the world. Yes, I think for now, this is what I wanted to share about today. That's the theme of the day. So let me know if there is resonance, if you have anything to add or you want to share something about that. I would appreciate. So we can all together grow, learn, and most important, awaken every day anew to that inner light. And to understand that yoga is a technology, a very powerful practice to do exactly that. With this, blessings, and keep practicing. Namaste.